What's up you guys, I'm Dan, this is Frugal Not Cheap, and in today's video I'll go over 6 financial products that I just don't mess with. Hey guys, so as you can tell I'm in Japan again visiting my mother. But I was thinking about these different financial products that I see that gain a lot of popularity, but are things that I'm just personally not at all interested in messing around with. So today we'll look over a bunch of them, I'll explain what they are and also why I don't think they make any sense for me. And we'll begin with covered calls. So this product is something that I thought about first. That was really kind of the genesis for this video. I was thinking about them and I was like, man, they ended up being kind of popular for a little while. People still talk about them. I don't really get it. In fact, I did a video about them a while back. Now, obviously, covered calls aren't necessarily like a financial product that you can buy or sell, although there are covered call ETFs, so in that sense they are. But I'm using that term loosely. It's just kind of different finance deals or things that, I don't like personally for my own portfolio or for my own life. And I'll explain kind of my rationale for why throughout the video. But in any case, what are covered calls? Well, to understand a covered call, you need to understand what a call is. And a call is a type of option. It's a call option. This is an option that gives you the right to buy an underlying asset at a specified price by a certain specified time. So this could be like an individual stock. It could be like, you might have heard of like a call option on Apple shares, for instance. These would give you the right to buy Apple stock at a particular share price. That price that you agreed upon is called the strike price. And then of course there's some kind of duration or maturity to these options. You can't just hold them forever. So the further out that maturity it is, the more expensive they're going to be to buy. Whereas if they're going to expire like in 5 days or 3 days or tomorrow, then they're going to be increasingly cheaper and cheaper. And that cost that you pay, by the way, is the premium. So you pay a premium in order to have this right to exercise the option if you want to, but you don't have the obligation to exercise it. You don't need to if it doesn't make sense. So why wouldn't it make sense? Well, let's say you bought some Tesla calls at the strike price of, I don't know, $500. And if the price went down to $300, then of course you wouldn't want to exercise your right to pay $500 for a $300 stock. But if it goes the other way and it goes up to $700, then it wouldn't make sense to do that. Now, in the covered call strategy scenario, what we're actually doing is not buying options, but we're selling them. So the idea is that you sell the option and you pocket that option premium that they buy. And then basically you have to hope that the price doesn't go up above the strike price, because if they do, then whoever bought the option from you is going to exercise that option, and then you'll be on the hook for whatever the difference is between the strike price and the market price. So that's for a naked call option, writing a naked call option. So here again, you pocket premium, but let's say that you wrote a call option on Tesla and the price went up to 1,000. The strike price was 500. Now you're on the hook for 500 bucks. Not so great. So that's where the covered call idea comes in, is that you're going to, instead of being naked on the position, you're going to cover it by holding an equal number of shares to the number of shares that are kind of like at stake in the option. So this way, if the price did go up to $1,000, well, you hold a Tesla share anyway. You can sell that share for the $1,000 and then make good on the option that you wrote. You still get to pocket the premium. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it goes with that one. However, it should be pretty obvious right there exactly what my criticism is. I would rather have made that $500 rather than have the person who bought the option from me make that. So just as a long-term strategy, I don't think that covered calls make any sense at all. You can see my deep dive in the video. But basically, it's more of a short-term thing. Like if you thought that for some reason the stock was going to be, not volatile at all, or, hold steady or fall, then it would make more sense to write options. But the thing is, no one's got a crystal ball. No one knows that that's going to happen. So over the long run, this strategy is going to drag against just a buy and hold overall diversified strategy, which is the one that I like to use. Another way to look at it, and I think this also is pretty powerful, is to notice the asymmetry. So your gains are limited. It's however much premium that you're able to, sell basically. Whereas your losses, either direct losses if you're naked, or opportunity cost losses, because well, you could have kept the money that from the appreciation in the stock in the event of a rally. Those are unlimited. So you have limited gains and small gains relative to, the potential losses or opportunity cost losses, which, yeah, so, not a very good deal for me. Okay, next up, number 2 is dividend funds, and this is something that, could be a little controversial. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that really, really love this whole like dividend income idea. But longtime viewers of this channel will know that I view things from the lens of total return. In other words, I view money as money. It doesn't matter if that's coming from the dividends or if that's coming from capital gains. And in fact, this kind of like viewing income money differently from capital gains money, which is also income money, by the way, is really just a psychological fallacy or bias. Moreover, when you look at it from kind of the perspective of an investment, companies can do one of two things with their profits. They can either reinvest those profits into business and generate further long-term growth, or if they don't have anything better to do, then they can pay that as distributions to shareholders in the form of dividends. So if you look at it from that perspective, companies that don't have any better ideas or are kind of stuck in having to, pay these dividends over the long run, they're more likely to be the ones that are not going to grow as big and create those big capital gains over the long run as well. At the same time, on the other end, the companies that are able to, pay a dividend over time are perhaps more stable than, some of the kind of long shots on the other side. But it's kind of hard to say because these dividends can be pretty sticky. It's kind of unpopular for a company that has been paying a dividend to reduce that dividend yield. And, it's entirely possible that a company that's, paying out this significant dividend yield might end up in a lot of, trouble, and their stock price might depreciate sharply. And so now you actually end up with an overall loss. So that's why I really think that looking at things, sort of in these kind of slices, we're all just playing kind of mental gymnastics there, and really total return is the thing that matters. Number 3 is actively managed funds, or even sort of robo-advised funds. And so if you're a longtime viewer, again, this is going to be no surprise at all that I'm a big proponent of basically, total stock market indexes that are, on a market capitalization weighted basis, kind of all totally passive index funds. And the reason for this is that my investment philosophy is just that the market will do a better job allocating capital than I ever could. And not only me, but also any kind of mutual fund manager or a robo-advisor could as well, at least in the longer run, right? Like you might have short periods of outperformance, what have you, but in the long run, I think the market's going to do the best job of allocating capital. So that's pretty straightforward, but before we move on, I do want to point out one risk that a lot of people don't necessarily think about. And this doesn't apply to tax-advantaged accounts because you can buy and sell stuff within like your 401k or your Roth IRA, what have you, without any really any concerns on the tax situation. But when it comes to your after-tax or brokerage accounts, I do see a big danger to ending up with, say, a financial advisor or one of these robo-advisors that gets us into a really complicated portfolio. And let's say that we later on, after a period of, 3-4 years, decided, hey, this isn't really for me. I want to try something different. Well, the problem is now we have this really complicated portfolio in an after-tax account. So if we were to try to liquidate that portfolio and then switch to a different strategy, that would involve potentially a lot of capital gains. And so this is a way that you can get kind of locked in. It can be a little bit sticky to end up with one of these guys, and definitely something that, is something to keep an eye on and think about. Number 4 is whole life insurance policies. So these are kind of this weird combination of equities or investments and life insurance. And there's all kinds of different flavors and varieties of them. But the main thing that I've noticed anyway is that these things have very, very high commissions for those that sell them. They're very profitable for those people. So they get pushed pretty heavily. And I don't want to say that they're completely useless. Like there are, if you have very large estates and you want to do some kind of like, inheritance planning, tax management along those lines, and that's a whole different level of the game than we're talking about here. I'm just talking about like everyday stuff here. So there is this kind of niche scenarios where these kind of like, life insurance wrappers and sort of more complex products could be useful. But in terms of an everyday investment for everyday people, yeah, I don't think so. It looks like they're very profitable for those to sell them, but they're not all that great for those who end up buying them. Number 5 is penny stocks, and if you're not familiar with these, you may be familiar with the movies The Wolf of Wall Street or The Boiler Room. In those movies, they were selling these kind of penny stocks or pink sheet stocks, basically just, these little dinky companies that no one's ever heard about, but they're very cheap to buy shares in. And so it is, in the movies kind of exciting when like there is an appreciation in that stock. And so, they can, it's a large gain relative to a small investment, but at the same time, the vast majority of the time, right, those investments are probably not going to go anywhere. So I look at this very much as like a gambling or speculation type scenario, and really not as like a sound investment strategy to me. And along those lines is the number 6 thing, which is cryptocurrency. And here I'm not talking about stable coins, those are relatively boring, but I'm talking about, meme coins and the huge sea of, whatever coins that are out there that, people might be hyping up and whatever at any given time. And so I made a video actually about how crypto is kind of like the new penny stocks in terms of all these different coins. I guess altcoins or whatever, I don't know. Terminology is always changing, but you know what I'm talking about. So if you've been watching me for a long time, I basically view this whole space with a whole lot of skepticism. Like I don't see any really good use case for really any of it in terms of like legitimate transactions and lifestyle. I know there's a lot of money in this space. Some people have made quite a bit. A lot of other people have been rug pulled, and it's just, it's kind of like the Wild West, right? It's a lot of this kind of, penny stocks type stuff going on in there as well. But there is about $4 trillion in overall crypto market cap, which is just completely nuts to me. So yeah, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, I think it's all kind of silly. So there you go. Those are the 6 things that I just don't mess with when it comes to my own personal finances. Did I miss anything there that you'd like to talk about? Let us know in the comments. I mean, there's a whole array of things, but these were the things that came to mind for this video. So I hope you found it helpful and enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit the like button and consider subscribing. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.